Hey there, and welcome back to Applied Wisdom, literature for living better. We're all sort of on this path trying to grow, improve ourselves. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're looking at Darius Foreau's book, Win Your Inner Battles. It's a really direct take on how to stop being your own biggest obstacle, really.
Exactly. Foreau has, this no-nonsense way of cutting through the fluff. He's not really about abstract theories. It's much more about practical steps, stuff you can actually weave into your day.
Right.
So our goal with this deep dive is to pull out the most useful ideas from his book, the ones you can start experimenting with pretty much right away to see a real difference.
A toolkit.
Yeah, think of it as getting the essential toolkit for your personal growth journey.
Totally. And Foreau's advice often has this grounded feel, doesn't it? Draws a lot from Stoicism, that kind of practical philosophy.
Very Stoic influenced.
So if you appreciate straightforward, actionable guidance, you're definitely in the right place. So the core of his argument is pretty powerful, I think. The toughest fights we face aren't usually external problems.
No, not at all.
But the stuff going on inside our own heads.
And what's fascinating is how he paints that internal world. It's like an arena, right? Where we're constantly battling negative self-talk, those really ingrained limiting beliefs.
Oh, yeah, those are tough.
That fear of screwing things up and, all the distractions that pull us off course constantly. It's quite a vivid way to think about it.
It really is. And it's not about pretending those feelings don't exist, is it? Because that seems like a losing game.
Definitely a losing game.
It's more about learning how to handle them so they don't, call the shots.
Yeah.
So where does Foreau say we should even begin with this internal wrestling match?
Well, he's really clear that it all starts with self-awareness. Simple as that, but not always easy. You just can't tackle what you don't understand, what you don't see. So it's about making a conscious effort to observe your thoughts and your emotional patterns. Crucially, without judgment.
That's the hard part.
It is. But just notice, what are the recurring themes in your internal chatter? What kind of situations tend to trigger specific reactions, maybe procrastination, or that feeling of being totally overwhelmed?
So for anyone listening, a really simple first step here could just be becoming a curious observer of your own mind.
Exactly.
Maybe set a little reminder for yourself a couple of times a day just to check in. What am I thinking right now? What am I feeling? No need to fix it yet. Just observe, like watching clouds drift by.
Precisely. And as you start paying attention, you'll probably begin to notice some patterns, those recurring negative thought loops. Foreau touches on these, calls them cognitive distortions.
Okay.
Think of them as common ways our thinking get a bit twisted and lead us to really unhelpful conclusions.
What kind of things?
Well, always jumping to the absolute worst case scenario, catastrophizing, they call it.
Yeah.
Even when there's zero real evidence for it.
Guilty.
Or seeing things in really rigid black and white terms. No middle ground, no shades of gray.
We've all been caught in those traps, haven't we? That instant thought that just screams, this is going to be a complete disaster at the first tiny sign of trouble. So when we catch ourselves thinking like that, what does Foreau suggest we actually do?
So this brings up a really crucial point about challenging those automatic negative thoughts. When you hear that inner critic firing up, Foreau suggests asking yourself a few key questions like, is this thought really true? What's the actual concrete evidence to support it? And maybe what's another way, perhaps a more balanced or even just a kinder way of looking at this whole situation?
So it was about injecting a dose of logic sort of into those emotional reactions.
Exactly. A reality check. Now, you mentioned Stoicism earlier. Foreau talks a lot about it. It might sound a bit, academic.
Yeah, maybe a little intimidating.
But at its heart, it's incredibly practical for everyday life, isn't it? What's a key Stoic idea he really emphasizes for these inner battles?
Well, the big one seems to be focusing on what you can actually control.
Yes, that dichotomy of control.
And learning to accept what you can't. You have direct influence over your thoughts, right? Your actions, how you respond to things. But so much else in life, other people's actions, external events that's outside your direct control.
And when you really internalize this, it can be incredibly freeing. Just think about how much mental energy we all waste worrying and stressing about things we simply cannot change.
It really shifts your perspective, doesn't it? So the actionable takeaway when you're facing a challenge is what? Zoom in on the parts you can actually do something about.
Exactly. Identify what aspects are within your control and focus your efforts there. Let go of trying to manage the rest. It's about efficient use of your energy.
Okay. And building on that idea of controlling your responses, Foreau also discusses emotional regulation.
Right. And it's not about suppressing your emotions. We know that usually backfires spectacularly.
It doesn't work.
Instead, it's about using reason and perspective to manage them. Learning to see challenges not just as insurmountable obstacles, but as potential opportunities for learning, for growth. That's a powerful shift.
So when you feel a really strong emotion coming on, anger, frustration, whatever a practical step is to try and pause, take a breath maybe.
Definitely pause. Take that breath.
And analyze what's triggering it. What's the underlying cause here? And is my reaction truly in proportion to what's actually happening?
Exactly. Asking those rational questions. And another big thing for Fora is the power of action. He stresses this idea of having a bias towards action.
I like that phrase.
The simple act of doing something, even if it's tiny, creates momentum. And it often brings clarity that just staying stuck in your thoughts, ruminating, never will.
Right. So if there's something you've been putting off, procrastinating on, a key insight here is just pick one small manageable step related to it.
Just one tiny thing.
And commit to doing it today, even if it's just for 5 minutes.
Even 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You might be really surprised how that initial action can just break the inertia, get things moving.
Okay, and to keep that momentum going, 4.0 emphasizes habits and routines.
Right. Hugely important. Because when you build consistent habits, you're not constantly relying on willpower, which, let's face it, can be pretty unreliable day to day.
Oh, totally. Mine runs out by lunchtime sometimes.
Exactly. It's about making those positive behaviors more automatic, less effortful.
So for you listening, maybe think about one small habit that would really move the needle towards your goals. Maybe it's 10 minutes of reading, maybe a short walk, maybe prepping your lunch the night before.
Something small and doable.
And commit to doing that consistently. And he also makes the point, doesn't he, that consistency is way more effective than these intense bursts of effort.
Oh, absolutely. Consistency over intensity.
Followed by long periods of doing nothing.
That's such a vital point for any kind of sustainable progress. It's always about those small, regular steps forward, rather than trying to make these huge, heroic leaps and then just burning out completely.
Makes sense. Now, to sort of bring it all together, 4.0 highlights how crucial it is to have a clear sense of purpose.
The why.
Knowing why you're putting in the effort, why you're facing these internal battles, it makes navigating them much easier, presumably.
Absolutely. Taking some time for honest self-reflection to really understand your core values and what truly matters to you, that gives you a kind of compass for your actions.
So you can ask yourself, how do my daily activities actually align with what I deeply care about?
Exactly. And when your actions are in line with something you find meaningful, well, that's just a huge source of natural motivation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes those inner struggles feel more worthwhile because you know you're striving for something that genuinely resonates with you, something bigger than the momentary discomfort.
It's interesting how all these ideas connect, isn't it? Self-awareness helps you spot the battles. That stoic perspective gives you tools to manage your thoughts and emotions.
Right.
And then the bias towards action, backed by habits and purpose, helps you keep moving forward despite all that internal noise.
You got it. It's a whole system, really. Self-awareness identifies the enemy within. Philosophy provides the strategy. Action and habits are the tactics you use daily. And purpose is the reason for the fight.
Okay, so to quickly recap some of 4.0's key practical strategies for everyone listening. Cultivate mindfulness, just regularly observing your thoughts. Maybe use journaling as a tool for self-reflection.
Great tool.
Set clear, actionable goals, maybe SMART goals if that works for you, and really trying to focus on the process, right? The actual doing, not just fixating on the end result.
Definitely focus on the process. And for you, the listener, maybe pick just one of those things to experiment with today or this week.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Try a brief mindfulness exercise. There are tons of apps for that. Or just jot down a few thoughts about a situation that's bugging you. Define one small, achievable goal. Or simply focus on nailing the very next step in a task you're already working on.
Small wins add up.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Darius 4.0's Win Your Inner Battles, the big takeaway seems to be that this journey of personal growth is, well, often an internal one.
Predominantly internal, yeah.
By building that self-awareness, applying these practical mindsets like stoicism, prioritizing taking action, and developing consistent habits, you're really equipping yourself, aren't you? Equipping yourself to navigate those inner challenges and move towards a more intentional and hopefully fulfilling life.
Well said. We hope this exploration has given you some valuable insights and maybe more importantly, some actionable ideas you can actually start using right away. Thanks for joining us on Applied Wisdom, Literature for Living Better.
Stay tuned for the next one. And hey, like and subscribe if this helped you. It really does help the channel.